Guys, recap on last night SEC championship. Alabama versus Georgia. Alabama wins 41-24. Georgia jumped out to a 10-point lead, but then once Alabama scored back-to-back touchdowns, Georgia got away from what they do. Georgia's a power running team, and Stetson Bennett, he dropped back 48 times for 48 pass attempts. The most he had dropped back for the whole year was like 29 times. And there was the two times he went over 20 attempts, 21 and 29. So he had never even approached 30, and he did close. They almost did 50 passing attempts. Um, Another thing, Georgia had win 10 straight games going over at least 125 to 200 rushing yards, and they didn't reach that threshold. They never got to 125. I think they probably just was over 100 if they did. um, and I was saying it was going to be about the quarterbacks. It was all going to be about the quarterbacks at the end of the day, because Brian Robinson, the starting running back for Alabama, it was questionable if he was going to play, but he got in the game. He ran for like 50 something yards. So it was mostly the quarterback work. Um, Bryce Young for Alabama had 400 and something passing yards with like three or four touchdowns, no interceptions. And Stetson Bennett, they made Stetson Bennett do what he hadn't done all year. I said it. If he don't have no pressure on him the whole year, and at the end of the year, y'all want to make him try to save the game from passing, it's not gonna happen. He hadn't had to do that the whole year. Um, Stetson Bennett threw for 340 yards, a couple of touchdowns. He threw a pick six, as a matter of fact, two interceptions, and I think that was a big thing. I think that was a big part of the game, the two turnovers. Plus, when Georgia got down, they started to pass. They started passing the ball. They abandoned the run, and they got three running backs over there: Cook, McIntosh, and Zamir White. Zamir White. They got three running backs over there, and they abandoned the run and went with the pass. But Georgia jumped out to that 10-point lead, and after that, Williams Williams got loose on them. Two receivers had like I think Williams had 180 something for Alabama, and then John Mechie had like 85 to 100 yards. He was just under 100 yards. So, and like I said, Brian Robinson, the starting running back from Alabama, he didn't get much rushing yards. So neither team got much rushing yards, but like I said before, Nick Saban is the type of coach that's going to make you try to win the game doing something that you normally don't do. And that's pretty much what happened in this game. I told y'all 48 attempts. The most attempts he had this year was 29. And the next closest to that was 21. One time against Tennessee, and I think the other time was against Auburn, I think maybe it was. 29 attempts against Tennessee and on 21 against Auburn. I had to make sure of that, but I think that's what it was. Um, yeah, man, Stetson Bennett, he can get out the pocket, but the pressure that was getting put on him, he got sacked three times. Alabama had three sacks, so the pressure that was getting put on him to make plays, he hadn't had that all year because that run game and that defense had him so far ahead. Bryce Young was avoiding getting sacked. He fumbled the ball on one run when it was 17-17. I feel like if Georgia would have got that turnover, that would have changed the whole game. That would have changed the whole game because Alabama had scored twice and then got a field goal. Um, and then I think they scored on that next drive. I'm talking about that he fumbled on and they recovered it back. Bryce Young recovered it back. But Bryce Young, man, he a Heisman candidate. And that game right there probably locked it up for him. That game right there probably locked it up for him. But Georgia played good football all year. I take my hat off to them. They pretty much just much better than almost everybody they played. They probably toughest competition probably was, I'm gonna say, Clemson, because they didn't score against Clemson and Clemson didn't score against them. It was two field goals and a pick six by Georgia. Georgia pick six won that game. So that game, Arkansas that beat 37-0. Um, Tennessee, I think they blew them out. They really didn't have that much tough competition this year. They ain't have much tough competition. And Stetson Bennett, he had been put in that position all year where he had to make the plays to win the game because the running game and the defense pretty much was in control every game. So we'll see how these guys end up being ranked for the bowl game. I think Alabama going to end up being number one. Alabama had one loss on the year, and that was to Texas A&M. But Alabama's so talented and they so well coached. Sometimes I feel like they just get bored. Alabama ends up just getting bored with just beating people. You know what I'm saying? They get bored. They want to challenge. They go down a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And then they boom, take off. Just like they got down 10. And then after that, they look like a whole different team against Georgia. So we'll see what Georgia going to be ranked at. They're probably going to have Michigan at number 2. Cincinnati probably going to be at 4, and Georgia might be at 3. But we'll see what happens.